All right, welcome back to our deep dive into Stephan Schultz's integral journalism model. Today we are getting into a really powerful one, the third principle, empathy.
But, before we meet our next hero, let's do a super quick recap of what makes these principles so special, so powerful to begin with.
So remember, each of these principles is like four things in one. It's a toolbox with tons of methods. It's a real impulse for how society can grow. It's a genuine superpower, which is why we have these superheroes. And it's a new way for journalists to think about their role, to expand their craft.
And man, this kind of expansion is so needed right now. I mean, you see it everywhere. Our whole information world feels like it's in crisis mode, right? Polarization, populism, just a general lack of trust. It's all on the rise. We need new ways of doing things, and yep, we need new heroes.
Okay, so you ready for this? Let's meet the superhero for our third principle, Captain Heartforce.
So principle number 3 is empathy, and it's personified by this amazing superheroine, Captain Heartforce. Her whole deal, it's this incredible ability to reach people on a really deep emotional level. So she gets that a lot of our big societal problems, a lot of the conflict, really boils down to a lack of empathy. And she knows that telling powerful, empathetic stories is a way to fight back against populism and start healing some of those deep divisions in our society.
Now this is really important. This isn't about throwing logic out the window. Not at all. Captain Heartforce's real strength is in how she blends the brain's logic with the heart's wisdom. It's that integration that leads to a much, much deeper kind of understanding.
So, why is this so important, especially right now? Well, to put it simply, the old ways just aren't cutting it anymore. The tools we used to rely on, they're just not sharp enough for the challenges we're facing today.
Think about it. The pure rationalism that came out of the Enlightenment, that was a game changer. It was like this shield against emotional manipulation of the masses. But today, against modern populism, that same shield has become kind of like a blunt sword. It fails to connect.
And this leads to something Stephan Schultz calls a resonance deficit. It's a huge problem. You've got these well-meaning, rationally minded politicians and journalists just throwing arguments at people. But for folks who are unsettled, who are maybe scared, it just doesn't work. They feel totally unseen, completely unheard. And that creates a vacuum, right? A vacuum that populists are experts at filling with emotional manipulation.
Okay, so what's the answer? How do we fight back effectively? The key is we can't use the old weapons. We need a totally new strategy, one that's way more integrated.
And that's where this idea of a second enlightenment comes in. It's this idea that we need to evolve to create a more mature society by powerfully bringing together thinking and feeling.
So what does this look like in the real world? This is where it gets super practical. You can still call out and refute populist arguments, be razor sharp about it, but at the same time, you can take people's underlying fears and needs seriously. And this is a key point from journalism professor Janet Blank-Libra. Understanding is not agreement. You can empathize without endorsing harmful views. Actually, when you practice what Schultz calls heart and mind vigilance, real empathy makes you more resilient to manipulation, not less. And get this, research actually shows that empathetic reporting is seen as less biased, even by people who totally disagree with you. That's huge. It helps counter that hostile media effect.
Okay, so how does a journalist actually start using this superpower? Well, the model breaks it down into 4 key dimensions. You can almost think of it as a roadmap to putting empathy into practice.
And these 4 dimensions, they all build on one another. It's a whole framework that kind of works from the inside out. So step 1 starts with you, the reporter. It's all about empathy for yourself. This means self-awareness and self-care, which are absolutely crucial if you want to avoid burnout, especially when you're covering really tough, traumatic stories. And there are practical ways to do this, like using feeling maps to chart your own emotional responses to a story you're working on. And of course, just actively practicing self-care to protect your own emotional health and stay resilient.
Okay, dimension 2. Now you take that empathy and extend it outwards to the people in your stories, your protagonists. The goal here is a really deep, authentic connection.
And a fantastic method for this is emotion-focused interviewing. It's a technique inspired by the psychologist Carl Rogers that helps you get past the surface-level facts and really understand the deeper feelings and human experiences that are driving the story. Then, for the third dimension, we zoom out even more. This is about empathy for the collective. We're talking about tuning into the shared feelings, the mood of a community, or even the unresolved traumas that exist within a whole society.
Now, this gets into some more advanced methods. Things like circling, which is a kind of relational practice to really experience group perspectives. Or global social witnessing, which is about sensing and staying present with these huge collective experiences without getting totally overwhelmed by them.
And that brings us to the fourth and final dimension, empathy for your audience. This brings it all together. It's all about how we tell our stories, how we communicate them with real care, respect, and attunement.
The main tool here is using what the model calls the 6 integral language qualities. Basically, it's about using language that is sensitive, respectful, and intelligently tuned in to create that resonance, to connect with your audience on a much deeper level.
So there you have it. That was our third principle, the superpower of empathy, brought to life by Captain Hartforce. We've just scratched the surface here, obviously. These are really complex ideas.
And hey, if you want to expand your own journalistic work with these concepts, I can highly recommend checking out Stefan Schultz's coachings and workshops. You can find all the info you need on his website.
So what's next? Well, in our next explainer, we're going to meet the fourth superhero, the master of listening and dialogue. Pretty cool, right? If you're curious, make sure you join us for the next video.